from Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And I'm actually asking a question on behalf of so many of the clients I work with. I'm a mental health counselor and a mindfulness practitioner. And it's not only for them, but for me, something that I think a lot of my clients struggle with is having a relationship with a family member that has been really, really strained or unhealthy, and making the choice to walk away from that relationship, and I guess having the discernment to know when to walk away from something. And you know, when it's a family member, you never really walk away from them. They're always your family.
Yeah.
And so I think it poses a really, really added layer of difficulty on how to do that, how to forgive. And so I think forgiveness is what I really would like to ask you to talk about, how to have been really deeply hurt by family and maybe cut off from that relationship in some way and still find a way to heal through forgiveness, like a playbook on how to forgive.
Well, there are an awful lot of people out there writing about forgiveness as a practice, and it's a very powerful practice. On the other hand, we need to temper forgiveness with a kind of a deep compassion that includes for ourselves, so that while we may forgive traumas or, you know, sort of harm of one kind or another that has been caused to us, if that's the case, that we don't forget it, because we don't want to create conditions for it to re-emerge. And we carry around those scars forever. So this will not be a long answer, but I feel like what's most important is to recognize when separation may be really important for a period of time, and then maybe a rapprochement or an attempt at that, but it could be 30 or 40 years in some cases. I mean, you know, but things do change over time, and the most important thing is to make sure that you are honoring your own integrity and not betraying yourself to make nice with other people who have actually, in some sense, betrayed you. So it's a kind of it's kind of like capoeira. It's kind of like a martial art where, you know, you sort of move in ways where you don't want to harm the other person, but you certainly don't want to be harmed yourself. And over time, it may be that you can connect around some commonality, after all, especially if you're in the same family. Ultimately, this is true for all of us because we're all in the same family. It's called human. But so much harm has been done by some humans to others. But if you carry around resentment and anger, then who's carrying it around? Who's paying the price for the harm is oneself. So the healing is absolutely essential in order to continue growing, or otherwise we growth arrest and then contract around our own betrayal, anger, everything. And then if you begin to realize that you're not who you think you are, and you never were, but you're much, much more, then it's possible sometimes to actually find a place in yourself where you could actually invite the other to engage in a way where you're not going to take it personally, whether they reject you or whether they accept you or whether they meet you halfway or whatever. So there's a lot of different levels or layers to this kind of thing. And the more you're growing, the more your heart is growing, and the more you see that contraction, no matter how much harm it caused you, you're not the scars, you're what holds the scars, and that's never been harmed. I hope that's helpful to some degree, Linda. It's a very, very complicated
It is, it is,
landscape to navigate.
it is very tricky. It's very complicated. And I think that it, for what I'm speaking about, it just feels, like you said, contracted and like so heavy and suffocating that it's almost seemingly impossible to lift that and move on. And I think that forgiveness is um, the way to do that. And I don't know that, I mean, we all, I guess, have the idea that that's the thing to do, but how to do it is,
There's a line from Yeats that goes, "What else could she have done being who she was? Was there another Troy to burn?" You know, to see the humanity in others who are actually causing harm. Uh, and actually, in some sense, rather than calling them evil, calling them ignorant, seeing them as like profoundly ignorant and then capable of gigantic harm, but in a certain way, they probably don't know what they're doing. And so it's not to say that there aren't war criminals and that people don't need to be held accountable for their actions, whatever, on the entire human scale of these kinds of things. But you don't want to pay a, any more of a price than you've already paid for having uh, fallen into that sort of, universe uh, yourself. And part of it is to really honor your wholeness, your integrity, even for one in-breath, even for one moment, you see. As long as you can, in some sense, recognize it in one moment, then it creates more space for the heart to actually include stuff that the heart has said, I am never going there. And it's a yoga, it's a dance, it's a lifetime's work. And and we all have been harmed by one thing or another, in one way or another, some enormously more than others. And so that becomes, in some sense, part of the curriculum of our learning, growing, healing, and ultimate transformation, so that you're not you're not imprisoned by your own resentment and anger and and violence even when you think of that other person or contract when you encounter that person.
yes,
I'm really appreciating that you asked this question because unfortunately it's all too prevalent in our world.
for sure. Yes. And it's very complicated and deep and hard to kind of untangle.
Yeah. But you're in the driver's seat, so you're in charge in a certain way. And what does your deepest intelligence or multiple intelligences invite out of you? And that will change over the decades or over moments. You never can tell.
Thank you. Infinite, infinite gratitude to you and to Soren. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you. Thank you so much, Linda.